As of now, our final speaker, Mr. Chair, is Dan Farley. Mr. Farley, you'll have 2 minutes. Please state your name for the record.
Thank you very much. Dan Farley out of LD23. As I mentioned in the Senate, I follow you guys on Twitter. You guys were happily standing with the people of Ukraine to remove our ability as we the people to select our representatives. Means you don't stand with we the people in Arizona. So that needs to be resolved for both parties. Otherwise, both parties look like they don't, or one or the other, if you don't stand together unanimously, look like one stands for representative government and the other does not. And that will be shared with the press if there's not a unanimous consent like there was last time. As far as the elected PC versus appointed PC process, there are those within the party that like to game the rules, whether they be extending meetings so you don't have a facility long enough to vote on bylaws, whether you run a meeting long enough to where people get tired and they leave and there's not a quorum. And there's gamesmanship of making PCs or appointing PCs, sometimes without them even knowing that they're a PC, okay? So if you set a low threshold without signatures requiring 10, can you not ballot stuff a whole bunch of PCs? And if it does go to the ballot, how are you going to put 100 PCs on a ballot for a vote? The fact that you have to get signatures and there's an effort ensures that you have more integrity to the process. And to the points that were being made earlier, these bylaws and so on say state committeemen have to be elected, a chairman has to be elected, and so on. So you're undermining everything that this republic is supposed to stand for. And I would highly encourage you to take those into account when rewriting this or pulling it back. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Farley, thank you so much for being here. I happen to know that you understand a lot about bylaws, and I know that you do. Let's say that this bill is not corrected, that Section 4 is not repealed. Let's pretend that doesn't happen unanimously out of the House. What is your best guess on the party structure for both parties? I'm assuming that the Republican and the Democrat Party are the same, in the structure. I don't know. And so if that's the case, according to statute, when we don't have any elected PCs, can you comment a little bit about that? Because I know you have an extensive background on that.
Okay, so this is a redistricting year, and I'm going through the census and that type of stuff just like you guys. So all these LDs are supposed to be voting on new chairmen over the next 30 days or so, and then new bylaws, and we're trying to get our arms around what those are going to be for boilerplates for the legislative districts. That said, it's my understanding that the county bylaws and the state bylaws do not change. And those specifically, like for the state party, you have to be an elected precinct committeeman in order to be a state committeeman to have a voice in the state party. And in the county party, you have to be an elected PC to take leadership roles. And if they're all appointed, and this point was made earlier, if those that are in power are choosing the ones that are voting for them, that's a corrupt system. It's absurd that this was even passed, that this wasn't discussed. I mean, I wonder, have you guys been PCs? And do you understand the process? Because if you did, this should have set off alarms right away. At minimum, you should have checked with the state parties on this.
For a point of clarification, if appointed PCs cannot vote for any leadership at the county or state level.
No, they can't run for office.
Yeah. Then there would be nobody, and everybody becomes appointed based on this. Then there would be no county or state party.
Exactly.
When the election occurs, if everybody's appointed, then in a year, because our state, one thing I do like about our state versus others is every year you have an opportunity to evolve your party to represent you. But yeah, if you are required to be an elected PC, then to become a state committeeman, in order to run for office, for, let's say, first vice chair, how can you be a state committeeman to run for first vice chair?
And to that point, Mr. Chairman, to that point, so if you're not an elected PC, okay, and you're an appointed PC and you vote on a county chair, an LD chair, can that be brought into court, and could the other party sue on that and say, you know what, party, you know, according to your bylaws, according to statute, you know, you're supposed to be voted on by elected PCs. You have no elected PCs, only an appointment, yet you still have a county chair, you still have a party chair, you still have state committeemen. Can the other party challenge that and take them to court and basically dismantle the party? Can that happen?
I'm not a lawyer, but I think the point you're making is there's a domino effect. Everything's structured around being elected PCs. Don't screw with that. You're going to create domino problems everywhere. That's not healthy. And you're going to have more news headlines and more mistrust of our government if that occurs. Get rid of this. Remain elected PCs. That needs to happen. And you have to be elected to have any moral authority to lead, by the way. If people don't believe that you were elected, why are they going to follow you?
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? A question? Go ahead, Representative Liguri.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question for you because, like Rep. Martinez says, you seem to know a lot about what you're talking about. So my question goes back to my initial question about the interpretation. Because the language in the bill is, I don't have the whole bill in front of me, but if it says they are deemed elected, so do you see any issues, you know, going to your point of how this will affect both parties, how there'll be no state, you know, committeemen, you know, being able to vote this year, but if they're appointed and they're deemed as elected, do you think they would still carry with them the same capacity as the elected would, as the bill is written?
Look, I'm not a lawyer, so I can't really give a legal answer to that. All I can tell you is that the base, and I would imagine the base, you know, across the board for our republic, if you're not elected and you're being appointed by leadership, it reeks of incestuousness. It reeks of not a representative government. I mean, we have in Legislative District 28, we have issues where there are PCs that don't attend meetings, no one's ever seen them, and we've got people that want to get involved in the party that are blocked out. And so we've seen abuse. We know it exists. And the elected process is the only way to ensure that abuse is not occurring and that we truly have a representative government.
I think we've gone a little bit off the question that was asked, but given that you're not a lawyer,
Yeah.
maybe we need to put that to a lawyer.
Yeah.
Question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, sir.